Okay, so welcome to this video. Uh, so on the last class here, we talked about views, how to create views. So we're actually going to be seeing that in action today. So I think we already know the steps of creating, you know, a that is a Django project. So I think the last project we created was fun, but I'll just be deleting that. I'll be deleting this folder now. So let me just quickly delete that. So yeah, that is gone. So I'll be starting afresh, creating up a new project. Let me open up my time now. So I'll be creating up a new project and creating up a new project, and of course I'll be opening up that Django project in Sublime Text. So let's go on. Django. Uh, okay. Let me navigate to my desktop. Let me create it in desktop. Desktop DX. So in desktop, let's run Django admin start project. Let's see. Let's call it home. Since it does want to create a simple home page, so Django start that up for us, and some few seconds now it should be done. So it's done. We can navigate to home. We're in home and we can open that up. So subl dot. So okay, it's not opened up yet. Okay, so Sublime Text has opened that up for us. So let's leave this here and okay, minimize this. So bring this to the right side, and yeah, I want this. So yeah, if you can see everything, I just opened up the new Django project that I created. So what are we going to do? Let's quickly start our development server. Python manage py on server. So we should start our development server. Let's give it some few seconds to run. Okay, so as I run that, it has created the database file. Let me kill the server and make those migrations. Control C, and finally we have here, we just need to make migrations since of course we're dealing with database. So Python manage py uh my make migrations first. Make migrations. Okay. No, did you mean make migrations? Oh, I typed the wrong thing. Not make migrations. Make migrations. Missing the R. So Python py make migrations. So yeah, so no changes detected. Finally, we can migrate. Okay, so I guess that's migrated, and we can start development server. Python manage py run server. Yeah, so our development server will start now to be up and running. So oh yeah, so that's up and running. Now, what did we say about that? We said today we are going to learn how to create views. So of course you can see my folder here towards the left side where my cursor is. You can see home. That is the main project folder, and inside that main project folder you have another folder that has PyCache in it. Yes, GI settings. So this setting is a very important file. Why? Because that's where the main, everything lives and blah blah blah. And you go down to urls.py, you have these WSGI. So I want to create a new app because it's that new app that will be writing on my view. So remember, we can actually kill the server here. Control C, and that's done. Let me clear this up so it freshes up, and I can start a new app by saying Python manage .py start app. The app name, let me just say process. Let me call the app name process. So it's going to start an application in process for me. It has started that. So immediately you do that, I'm sure if you come back here, you can actually see process in the folder. That's part of the folders there. So you'll see the new folders created. So the first thing I need to do, of course, like we said in the class, I head over to home settings, and in the settings app, I have to attach the installed apps, which was processed to these ones here. So what was the name of the app I just created? That's save that, Ctrl S, and of course, since that is there now, I can head over to urls.py and do what I need to import the include. So from Django, the URL is the pop part, and also comma include, since I'm just importing both include and part from Django the URLs, I need to add the part of the app I just created. So that will be parts, new parts added. Uh, I want to give it a first directory, and I of course process followed by a forward slash. Then I want it to include some things, that is include the process the URLs, because the process folder is going to have some URLs. So process or URLs. So what I'm trying to show you here is the usage of views. You know, I told you that views render to the front end, so that's what I'm just trying to show you. So after that is done, I think we have finished that for that in home. So let's quickly go to process. You can see everything we have here, views test. So we need the urls.py file. Let's create a new file, and if we have created a new file, we are going to name urls.py. So if we Ctrl S to save this file now, we want to save it where we want to save it in. If we go back, I think we save that in desktop. uh let's look for home in processes, right? Yeah, so this is where we want to save that file. So when we save this here, it automatically, okay, it needs name, urls, file type. You can It actually has so many file types that you can save as here, depending. So the Python, you can just actually, pick this one, meaning it's going to save it as one of these files, or you can just manually attach uh the extension. So if I save this now, okay, it didn't actually save as that, but let me just rename it here and say .py, so that it knows it's a Python file. urls.py. So as I press enter, it has actually converted that to a Python file for me. So yeah, so this urls.py file, and of course you need to import parts because you are going to create a view. But before we do anything now, let's quickly run our start our server again. Python manage.py run server. Okay, so yeah, I got some errors here. Django.code the exceptions. Process URLs from blah blah. URLs.py does not appear to have any patterns in it. So what it's just trying to tell me is that this particular file here does not have patterns. So let's quickly write that. The default thing is that uh from Django.urls, we need to import path because all URLs.py files must actually have paths allocated to them. So URL patterns is equal to, what am I saying URL patterns? URL patterns is a list, is a particular data structure in Python that does what? It stores the URLs of all the views you have. So we can just create a single path here and with a function. So a path is a function called. It's just simply, if you go back to home and go to the URLs here, you can see URL patterns here also. So, but we are dealing with this one. So we can just save this, Control S, and restart our server. Our server is actually restarted by itself, so it's reloading. So okay, so it says path missing two required positional arguments. So the first argument is actually a string. The first argument is a string and the second one is blah blah. But before we do that, we are going to fix that in a bit. But let's quickly create a view. So what is a view? Let's head over to our views.py. You can see here it says from Django.shortcut import render, create your views here. So what are views? Now a view is simply what renders an HTML template. Now in Django, every view is a function. Remember, we talked about a function. A function is a usable block of code that executes a specific task. So, of course, if you can remember, to create a function, we use the df keyword followed by the function name. So, the function name here will be that view you are creating. For example, let's say we want to create a view that renders an HTTP text to the page saying, "Welcome to SOG Solutions." For example, now let's say that's what we want to render. Welcome to SOG solution. So we can call it home page greeting. I think that was what we called it in the class. Home page greeting. Depending on what you want to call that, just call it my own home page greeting. And of course, followed by a view must always accept a web request and respond with a web response. So you can just attach request here, meaning request. And finally, I've accepted the web request and I must respond with something. So I want to respond with a web response, meaning return. I'm saying that when a user searches for this particular view, because we are going to allocate a URL to the view. So the thing is that in the real world, what you actually do when you go to a particular website or a web browser with a URL is that when you type that URL in your browser, your favorite browser, maybe Chrome or MS Edge, a view is returned. That means, I mean, the view that is linked to that URL. So that's exactly the backend. That's what is happening. So depending on the request, the thing is that when you search for something on a browser, you are sending a get request to a browser. You're telling the browser, please browser, I need to get the particular view that is related to this URL to help me communicate to the development server. Uh, First, help me communicate to the application server. Tell the application server to tell the development server that I need this particular resource from here and tell you to return the view for me. So that's just practically what is happening. So in my own case, this view is returning an HTTP response. Saying what? It's just practically saying simple things. Welcome to SOG solutions. So let's say that that's just what my view is saying. It's not really saying anything much. So we can Control S and save this. But first, we need to import HTTP response because without importing it, we can't use it. It's a function. So where do we import it from? So we say from Django dot http imports HTTP response. Yeah, that's so. Did you take it to the next line for me? Let me see. Or HTTP response. Yeah, so that's that for that. Control S. So hello, thanks for trying out Sublime Text. This is unregistered version, but is on time. Although the trial is on time, the license not possible. No, no, actually now. So that's that for that. So let me Control S. So though I could purchase in another version later. So uh, I've imported this. Now finally we have created a view. This view is accepting a request. Meaning this request is when you go to the browser, your favorite browser of your choice, and search for something. on the browser. You're just telling that please, I need this. So finally, you go to urls.py file. You need to import that particular view to give it a URL, unless you can't, someone can't find that view online. If the thing is that when you go online and type in a URL, this is what is you are searching for a particular view. That's how backend works. That's how Django works. So that's that for that. So we go to URL now. We need to import that view. We can do it in two ways. We can say from dots. Now, sorry, that's comma from dots. Now, what do I mean by dots? Dots means period means current directory. Anytime you see this symbol dot or period, it means current directory. I'm just trying to say, so I'm currently writing this in the urls.py file. I'm saying from dots, meaning in the current directory where this urls.py file exists. Now, what is the name of that directory? The name of that directory is process. This directory here, process. I'm trying to say that in the urls.py file, where the folder where the urls.py file is, which is dot current directory or current folder, look for a file called views.py, meaning from dot views, import a particular view from that file. So one of those things that from dot views imports what? Imports what's the name of the view we called that one? Homepage greeting. So from dot views imports homepage greeting. Homepage greeting. So that's what we are saying. That's what we are saying total. So one of those things that are from that import homepage greeting. Now that I have it, I need to attach the view to a URL, meaning the only way someone will be able to find it online is if I attach it to a URL. So, sorry, just give me some. Sec. Okay, so the only way I'll be able to find is if someone attaches it to a URL. So, finally, how do we attach it to a URL? Now, this view, we need to give it a name. Now, what do you think will happen? For example, let me quickly open on MS Edge and show you something. Let me open up Microsoft Office Edge. So it's opening right now. Let's give some few seconds. So it's opened. Now if I go to MS Edge, for example, and I type in something like, I don't know, let's see, HTTPS. I'm just giving a random URL. Let's say SOG solutions.com slash login. Let's see the official Suji Solutions website, for example, slash login. Now you can see this login. This login is a particular view that was given a name as login. Now that's what I'm trying to say. This login is a particular view that was given a name as login. So for the same thing goes with yeah the same thing goes with this particular view. It may be a login page, but in our own case, it's not a login page. So we need to give it a name. And that's the name that will show in this particular place. In this particular place where we wrote login. So in my own case, I just want to give it a name called home, not login. And now that I've given it a name called home, the second argument it must take is the name of the view. In our own case, the name of our view is home page greeting, right? So Control C, we paste home page greeting here. And finally, it must also have a name. This is the URL name, meaning the name you see when you type a URL. But the second name we want to give it now is something you call like the redirection name. Now, imagine if, let's say, after you've done a lot of things and you finally want to redirect to another page, you have to attach a name. So you can call this name. We can also give it the name as the URL name. So I call this home also and press Ctrl S. So now that everything is set and running, we have this, we have that. So you can see that immediately we press Ctrl S, our development server actually reloaded up and gave us this. So that's that for that. Everything is all set. We can now copy this, Ctrl C. So we've copied that and let's head over to the browser. So Now, if we go to the browser and search, let's remove this. Let's paste this one. Now, I want to show you something. Now, if you paste this page, if you paste this page, it's going to show you the list of directories you have. So if you can see, it's same page 44 not found. Why? Because you can see I've created a process directory. So I need to navigate to this process directory with the name of a particular view. So now look at what happens. Let's say I go to another tab and now paste the same thing with the student process. I navigate to process because it's an app that was created, and I also navigate to home because that was the name of the app, and I press enter. So you can see welcome to SOG Solutions. So this is a particular page, which is a view that was rendered. That's just how it works. So what is happening that on this server, on this particular server, which is the server on my local machine, which is my laptop, that is running for that application, is saying this process is running, which is the name of the app we created with, and it's rendering a particular URL or a particular view rather, which is a HTTP response. So you can see what is happening. Okay, let me just okay, let me reduce this. Perhaps I can reduce the size of this to somewhere like here. Make this half. So let me open this. Use this so you'll be able to see it perfectly. Move. Just give me a minute. I'm trying to so I can also open Sublime. So I want us to see everything that's happening and open Sublime at the same time. So yeah, the browser, Sublime Text, and the ID. So what are we saying now? If we try that again, let's now we have finally practiced what we have practiced that with views. Or if you run it again to still show the same thing. Why? Because our server is still running. So if we head back over to or views.py. Now we can render a template. Now a template is HTML. Remember I told you templates are what views render HTML. So now this can also render a template, but instead of saying return HTTP response, we want to render something. Now that's the use of this from Django the shortcuts import render. You can also report something called redirect by just attaching comma redirect, but we are going to talk about that in another class. So let me cancel this up. Cancel. So return render. Let's say we wanted this text or another thing to exist inside a HTML file. We can just write this by saying render request comma. Then we need an HTML file. Let's say the name of the HTML file we wanted to use was home.html. Home.html. So let's say that was the name of the file. We can also attach something you call a library or a dictionary that passes uh, form fields. But since we are not dealing with forms today, we are just rendering HTML. We can see this like this. So if we press Ctrl S now we have created a new template, right? But yet we don't have that template. Now we need to create a template. Now, what is a template? A template is simply a folder that houses all the HTML files of one app, and the name of the app we are going to be creating that for is process. Why? If you come to home and go to settings, you can see if you go down to this is settings or PY file of the main folder. If you come down to where it says templates here, you can see that app directories is set to true. Now, app directories means in every apps directory, that means every created app, you know that this this process here was a created app. Remember, we created it with Python manage.py start app name. So it's a created app. Now, I'm saying that what Django wants is that in every created app, you must have a template folder in that directory in order to actually have HTML. So all I need to do is go to the process folder and create a new folder. You can actually do that, but Okay, it says open folder. Instead of open folder, let me just create one generally. So if I right click, so new folder. Now I want to create a new folder inside this folder. So when I write new folder, I can just call it template. Template. Please, it's case sensitive. It's template with small letter. If you create it with capital letter, you may run into some error. So I've created a new folder here. Uh, okay, so I've created a new folder here, and that's that folder. So you can see templates here now. So okay, that's apps.py. I don't need apps.py. Let's close that back. So I've created a new template. Now inside this template folder, I must create a new file. I must create a new file called uh home.html. Remember that was what we saved it as. So if I press Ctrl S, is inside templates. I must save the file and call it home.html. Home.html. So okay, I put comma home.html. So see, so it has actually saved that as home.html. So but then so if I close this template now, you can see that it has saved that here as home.html. So what I'm trying to say is that give me some few minutes. Sorry. Okay, so yeah, let me open that back. I think that was Sublime. Okay, not Sublime, Terminal. Yeah, so I've created home.html. Now in this home.html, we can just simply write a default standard doc type, of course, doc type HTML, doc type HTML signifies what? It signifies that an HTML file was written in HTML5. Yeah, so let me delete this, calm down. And finally, after that, we have the HTML file, HTML. Uh, yeah, HTML. Okay. And in the HTML tag, we must have the head tag. That's natural. The head tag, and in the head tag you can next titles tags like the title tag, title, and in title you can write various things like, let's say, let's call the what is in title tag displays in browser bar, so let's call it home page. And finally, since we have the head now, we can just further go down to the body. Okay, sorry about that. So I'll go down to the body and write what? And write anything. So let's say we wanted an input, a particular input that takes type of date. A type of date is going to ask you to input your date. Type equals to date. So let's see what's date. And we actually save that here. So now if you save this Ctrl S and you actually rerun, okay, I think development server is running. Now when we run this, it's going to tell us that what it's going to show us an input field. So okay, we ran into some sort of errors. Uh, what is it said Django template in templates exception template does not exist. Okay, home.html says home.html does not exist, but it actually exists. So there's certainly an issue. Use.py. Okay, let's check our settings file. I guess it's just some tweaking with Sublime. Okay, so here it is. You can see it now. The it's showing the us to pick a date. So show date picker. So if you tap that now, you can see that it's asking us to pick a date. So that was what that input tag was for. It was asking us to pick a date. So if we come here to processes, you can see that it has already rendered the template. So that view, that the particular view here has rendered that template. So that's just that for that. So that's used for you. You can render HTTP responses and you can also render templates. So perhaps in the next class we're going to be looking at what models how they interact with databases and what you can do with them. So bye for now.